Hello and welcome to the Filmmaker's Compass podcast. This is Dustin, joined by Christian. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Very excited for our guest.
Very, very peppy intro. I really liked it.
Oh, thank you. I've been doing this for a while, so hey. I'm going to throw it over to you, though. We have a very special guest with us, and I'm very excited to get into our stories and some questions on this new podcast. So
awesome. I'm actually really excited. This week we have a really good friend of mine, Curt Chatham, who is a super successful producer in this beautiful town we live in called Hollywood.
Well,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, sure.
I know it smells like piss everywhere.
Hey, he might be so peppy because he's at like 9 Red Bulls already, right? Is that what it is? Something like that.
Super peppy.
All right, super peppy.
Super peppy.
Don't touch the table. Right?
Podcast 101. Don't touch the table.
So, Curt, anyway, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no
really
problem.
appreciate
Fun.
it. You have tons of insight from your experience as a producer.
Yes.
I always think it's kind of funny because you obviously moved cross country.
Quite literally from one coast to the other.
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Nice.
I moved I grew up in Atlanta. I went to college down in Savannah. 2 months after that, less than 2 months after that, I was on the road. I-20 straight out, went up through Memphis, hit I-40, came across, because I didn't want to be in Texas for 2 days, so I just went across the panhandle and then came down. Yeah, and it took me about 2.5 days to drive out, packed up everything in the SUV and came on out.
What inspired the move?
Well, I'd always been interested in films. I mean, films are great. Yeah, TV not so much, which is interesting because now my latest project is in TV, but films are fun to watch.
Of course. Yeah.
Always, and to talk about and just like to quote. I mean, you can throw out this quote. Now I know what a TV dinner feels like. What's that from?
Die Hard.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Yeah.
Quit playing with your dinghy.
One of the best movies ever made.
Right? I mean, like everybody knows the quotes. You can quote things and everybody does, and they're just fun. And so I actually had a friend who I met in Atlanta who lived out here in LA with his wife, and he said, "Hey, come out for the summer and try it out." And I was like, "Okay." And 16 years later,
there it is.
I'm still trying it out.
Nice.
And it's funny because my friend, he and I I'm producing a play for him later this year. Still friends.
Yeah,
still talk to him.
16 years later.
He texts me stupid little jokes all the time, and he's a little bit older than I am, but he's married. And he's got a son, but he's a happy-go-lucky guy, and he texts me stupid quotes all the time or stupid stuff. I'm like, you're such an idiot, dude. You're so funny. Right? But yeah, I'm producing a play, and we're gonna turn the play into a movie. We're gonna shoot the movie at the same time we're doing the play. So
nice.
Oh,
it
cool.
lends itself to being to do that. And we've always, we've actually, it's kind of interesting. We've worked together on some small stuff, but never on a movie. And he finally just said, "Hey man, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
Nice.
So
very cool,
dude. Exciting. What was obviously you've done a lot of stuff. You've done a lot of short films. You've pitched bigger projects. Yeah. You did the pilot for the variety show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did a feature. Let's talk a little bit about the feature that you did.
Okay. Yeah. Other Halves on Amazon, by the way. Amazon Prime. Other Halves.
So check it out on Prime.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it's pretty cool because you pretty much bootstrapped that whole thing
we
yourself.
did that whole thing. I think that we did a feature film, and technically a feature film is 90 minutes. Well, it has to be like 87 minutes or whatever, but 90 minutes. And we did the whole thing for right around $40,000 on location in San Francisco. It's crazy.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Just a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, was, we actually had tried bigger budget, more ambitious projects than Other Halves before. We just weren't getting any bites on investors or anything. So we just kind of went back to the drawing board, and we were like, I just said to him, I was like, listen, we have to think smaller. As a producer, you're always having to think of what are your liabilities?
Sure.
And how can you manage those liabilities? Yeah. And our liability was we weren't known at the time. And so no one was going to give us money. So we were like, well, we had to do this on a shoestring budget, quite literally a shoestring budget for a film. I mean, $40,000 is a lot of money, but when it comes to films, that's you could spend that in 10 minutes, if you really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably spend it in a minute or less. So we went back to the drawing board and we were like, what's our basic story? And Other Halves is a psychological thriller. And so we went on okay, it's going to be a horror film. What's your basic things that you need in a horror film? You need a lot of young, good-looking people. Yeah. If you're going to go... Yeah. If it's not going to be a ghost story or anything like that, you need young, good-looking people, right? And you need hot girls who are willing to be naked.
Yeah, that's true.
And you have to show blood.
Seen enough horror films to know both those are true.
That's just what it is, right? So we were thinking, okay, did we take this group of kids out into the woods? Okay, yeah, that could be cheap. But then we were like, well, no, it's not really, because then you're talking about like everything at night, blah, 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 you know. And then we were like, well, what do we do with them? And so my friend, at the time, he had friends living in San Francisco who owned a business that had the top 3 floors of a building in downtown San Francisco.
Nice. Oh, wow, that was pretty exciting.
That's really lucky.
And and their business model was a school, a specialized trade school. They were on for 6 weeks, took a week off, on for 6 weeks, took a week off, right? And so my buddy was up there one summer, I think it was summer 2014. He was up there shooting like a little like corporate video and, you know, messing around with them, because my friend went to USC film school and he met the 3 owners at school. None of them, I don't think any of them were in film school, but they were just like, they were roommates. They were all roommates at one time. They were all in each other's weddings. So they were just great friends, right?
So what I heard is USC film school pays for itself.
Yeah. We'll get into that later. And then he was just like, he was there and he was just like looking around and he asked his buddies like, hey, can I come up here with some friends and shoot a film? And they were like, yeah, sure. For us, it was like, well, okay, we're going to take that one of the weeks that they are off, so we can basically own the property.
Nice.
Yeah. And they said okay, and they just said, well, you know, just like let us know. And so we chose a week that was several months out and said, okay, let's do it then. And so then my friend, he wrote this script. He adapted. This is one of the things you have to do is you have to, again, going back to managing your liabilities. Okay, well, now we have the location. Instead of trying to find, like writing a script and finding a location that fits the script, we adapted our script to adapt a location that we could get for free.
See, that seems like a really smart tip for aspiring filmmakers.
Yeah.
Just work with
so
what you
you gotta find a way to take what you have and make it work.
Exactly.
For you.
What do you have for free, or what can you get for stupid cheap, and adapt your story to that?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't need to be Bruce Wayne in his big mega mansion. You know?
Yeah.
Right. It can be a guy in his apartment.
Yeah.
And you can still make a compelling film for that. And so he adapted the screenplay to fit the physical environment that we had for free, right? And so in one scene, a character comes out of the kitchen, he turns left, and he sees a door. Well, for us, I, as you know, the producer, and I was also the line producer, and I was also the first AD. So I was doing the schedule and everything.
Couple of hats.
Right? I was doing a lot. And then so it was one of those things where it's like, it was great for me because it's like, okay, well, in the script it says the actor comes out of the kitchen, turns left, and sees a door. Well, guess what? That's what the physical location was. The actor came out of the kitchen and turned left and saw a door.
So lucky.
Right? It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So we adapted our screenplay. Well, I mean, we literally just had like the kernels of a story.
Okay.
And then it was like, well, what, you know, like, okay, well, we have this location. What do they do with this location? The location was a computer coding school. Okay, so these are a bunch of computer coding students or young computer coders. Okay. Right? Which works in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
That makes sense, right? There's a lot of people that work in computer coding out there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of, you know, and then they're developing this new app and something goes haywire and they all start killing each other. Not only killing, but they all have sex with each other. It's great, you know?
Well, that's kind of,
you know what I mean? That's kind of the point.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you gotta get people naked. That's
right. You have to, you know,
one-on-one.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, it was like great, and then we were able to find a young cast that was willing to work as locals. It was interesting. Like we said, well, we need to cast everybody local in San Francisco because we can't pay for travel, we can't pay for per diem, we can't pay anything.
Yeah.
As it turns out, our entire cast was from LA, but they all said that they would, you know, work in San Francisco as locals.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of them had like ties to San Francisco or whatever. So like some of them had family or they had friends, so they all just stayed up there. Wow. And it was just like, okay, cool.
Nice.
And they were all like, it's cool, you know. And then of course, like with the ladies who had to get naked on camera, like we told them in the casting session, like, or when we put out the casting, like, requires nudity. Everybody who came in, you know.
Is that an awkward conversation? I mean, if you're upfront about it,
if you're upfront, it's not.
Okay.
You know, it's one of those things where if you're up, like you have to put it in the casting notice that this role requires nudity,
sure.
And if they're uncomfortable with that, then
you don't move forward.
Like obviously they won't come in if they're uncomfortable. Now, if they come in and you want that particular actor or actress for the role, they say, I won't do nudity, then you either have to have a conversation with them and say, did you read the casting notice? Because if you didn't, then I'm not sure if I really want you for this role anyway.
Right. Yeah. Hey.
And if you did, why did you come in if you're not comfortable with nudity, right? And then you have to have a frank conversation.
But I assume then that does happen.
Oh, it happens all, yeah.
Yeah, where people are like, oh, maybe I can change their mind.
Yeah.
Or, hey.
We had 2 different ladies get naked on camera.
Yeah.
Multiple times. And the big one was, if you go watch the movie, you'll see it. It's, it's a head-to-toe shower scene.
Yeah.
And,
I
mean,
will
they're not...
go check that out.
Well, I mean, it's not like they're not having sex or anything. It's like, they're at you're at the gym, and they're taking a shower at the gym.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there talking. And it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, in that, for us, looking towards selling the picture, because you always have to look at that, because you have to remember a movie is very subjective, and just because you make a movie and you love the movie doesn't mean people are going to go watch it.
Right.
And it also doesn't mean people are going to pay to watch it.
Good point.
Which, let's face it, at the end of the day, that's what filmmaking is all about.
Exactly.
In a sense, if you don't want to make movies, go make a documentary. I mean, if you don't want to make money, go make a documentary.
There you go.
You know what I mean? If you want to make a movie, a commercial movie for people to watch, then you have to think about selling. And so for us, that was one of those things where that scene, everything they talked about was very pivotal to the story. We could have had that scene in an office, like in the girl's office, sitting in her chair, the other one sitting across from the desk in another chair, and they have this. But that's very boring. Yeah. And in a horror film, again, you have to have nudity. No. And so the girls were they understood why we were doing it, and they were okay with it.
So
awesome.
I think, let's take a step back here.
Sure.
Obviously, as a producer, there's a lot of roles and responsibilities that fall into your lap. And I think there's probably a lot of our listeners, because I even know a lot of people in the industry that really don't know exactly kind of what a producer does and where the box that you work within is. Can you kind of give your opinion for filmmakers out there? What do they need to know when working with a producer? What is a producer's role, and kind of how can you best use your producer to their full potential?
Right. Well, let's just stick with movies, because the role of a producer in television is a little bit different than movies, right? So in movies, in the more traditional sense, especially like in independent films, the producer is not only the lead creative person on the film, they are also the lead business person. And they're, to quote a movie, they're the HNIC. Right? Yes. Let's see, we're talking about quoting movies. I mean, they are. They're the person who finds the script. In independent world, they will option the script, and then they'll wind up having to just buy the script. Now, what does that mean? That means they own that product. That's theirs. Then they're going to go out and hire everyone else to do the job. So they're going to hire, they have a creative vision for this movie. They're going to hire, if they want punch-ups, so they can either work with the writer who they're acquiring the property from, or they just hire another writer to come in and like, here's my notes, incorporate my notes.
Yeah. Is that pretty common where you may purchase a script and then you're like, hey, bring in someone else and
happens all the time.
Rewrite the whole thing.
Every day. Happens every day.
Okay.
Yeah. Happens all the time. And then the producer will bring on a director, working with the director, bring on cinematographer, production manager, or production designer, and then casting and everything downstream of that. So a producer is like the person in charge. They own the product. Now, they'll go and find investors in an independent world. They'll go and find investors. And if they find someone outside of a studio, or even like the independent arm of a studio, a lot of times that it just kind of depends on who the investor is, right? If the investor's never invested in movies before, most of the time it's like the producer will have full creative control. Sure. If the investor has invested in movies before or whatever, sometimes they'll say, oh, I want to see this or blah, 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 blah. And then they'll have to work with what the money says. Because if the money says do something, you kind of have to do what the money says.
I think a lot of, especially younger filmmakers, get into a lot of, how do I want to say, creative conflict with their producers.
All the time.
And it seems like...
Not even young people. Older folks.
Right, because the problem is people who come at a project from an artistic perspective, want it's their baby, they want it to be solely theirs, and your job is to step in and say, hey, like, I'm here to bring you money up front and make sure we have a product that we can make money off of at the end. So you're doing a director a huge service.
The producer always has to have an eye for selling the product. Because again, like I said, it's a commercial venture. You're creating a product that someone wants. You want someone to pay you to watch, right? So the producer always, from the get-go, always has to have an eye for how can I sell this? And if they go to investors, the investors are going to want to know, how are you going to make my money back?
Exactly.
Right? And so the biggest thing is you have to manage your liabilities, right? And so you have to work with the producer has to work with the director, work with the cinematographer, work with the actors, work with everybody to have them work as creative, let them be as free creatively as they can, but then stay within the boundaries of the budget that they are given. And if you don't have the money to do it, find it. Either you have a couple of options. Find a different way to do it that's more creative and cheap, or cut the scene.
Yeah, I could imagine, let's assume somebody's doing a space flick, and they're like, the only way we can film this, we have to go to the International Space Station. You're
right.
Like, no.
Yeah. Good. No.
Never gonna
not going to happen.
Do you have $1 billion?
We're going to have to figure out another way.
You have
or
$1
cut
billion?
it.
Yeah. No, you don't have $1 billion, so you do it in front of a green screen.
Yeah,
Right.
so you find an alternative.
Right. Oh, well, it doesn't look like they're floating. It doesn't look like there's no gravity. Okay, well, then you get a wire system. Oh, do you have money for that? No? Okay, then move it from the International Space Station to on Earth, and you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Find a different location for the same story, and it'll be much more creative and much more interesting.
So is there some advice that you can give to all the directors out there that have the perfect project in mind that they want to work with, and right now they're looking for a producer to bring on board to bring this to life?
Yes.
What are some things they need to know about how to maximize that relationship and keep it from being so contentious?
Well, the first thing you have to realize, you have to remember as a director, and as a writer, I would even say, or as a writer-director, is filmmaking is collaborative, right?
That's a good point, and everyone seems to forget that.
Even if you're making a documentary, it's still a collaboration because you have a cameraman. If you're the on-screen host, you have a cameraman following you. Right? Yeah. Unless you are the one and only person. You're doing the audio and the video, and you're editing it, and you're doing the music.
And then you end up with the room.
And then you end up, right. And then you end up, if you're the only person doing everything, and you're acting, or you're just going out there doing a visual project, great. Okay. Do whatever the fuck you want. But if you're writing a screenplay to tell a story, and it has actors, and it has locations, and it has cars and houses, whatever.
Yep.
Learn that it's a collaborative thing, and you will have to make compromises. It's that simple.
Because it never goes away.
It never goes away. And you want to make a movie. It's supposed to be fun. Yes, it's stressful, but at the end of the day, you're not sitting in a cubicle from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So, consequently,
right.
As a producer, what are some of the tips that you employ to keep your... Because obviously, right, there's going to be conflict about creative visions. Like, you get creative people together, there's always conflict.
Right.
How do you kind of smooth out the road a little bit? And what are some of the tips for just kind of, I guess, talking directors and writers off the edge?
Well, I mean, off the edge. Fucking let him go off the edge. I'll do it myself.
Give him the nudge.
Right? Well, okay, if you're working with a first-time director, then you always try and find a strong cinematographer, a strong first AD, and a strong script supervisor. Because those three people working in tandem can help the director.
And make sure that the movie gets actually made.
Right.
Cool.
If you have an experienced director, then you can have a new cinematographer or a new first AD. So that's just the way it is. But
somebody's got to bring the experience.
Somebody's got to bring the experience. But working with a first-time director, you always have to realize as a producer that their eyes are bigger than their stomach, right? Mm-hmm. They're kind of in awe. Oh my God, I'm a director now. Right?
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Maybe I can. And they always get afraid. Like, come on, you can do this, right?
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things.
I'm in over my head.
Right? And if they're on the edge, it's like, well, you know what? Let's get this person. And usually it's like, if they're worried about the setup of a scene or blah blah anything, if they're worried about anything, you can always find one of your department heads. Either your cinematographer or if it's not a camera issue, it's like, oh, that just doesn't look like I can't take this. Okay, well let me call the production designer in or the art director, whomever. Let me call the set dressers in. Let me call somebody in from the art department and get them over here, and we'll fix the problem. Or if they're like, oh, there's a wardrobe. I'm like, okay, let me call the wardrobe department over here. Let's work together and get through the issue. Because if anybody starts flying off the handles, then you are literally wasting money because you have crew, locations, and equipment sitting there that you've rented, that you're paying for, and it's like, what are you doing? You're over here throwing a temper tantrum because this one little thing is red instead of blue, and oh my God, I can take 5 minutes to fix it, or you're going to sit over there for an hour and bitch and moan and complain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming happens a lot. People don't...
Yeah. Oh, it happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's not only directors, actors throw temper tantrums too. In some instances, like I'm like, when it comes to actors, I'm like, man, you're a fucking actor. Shut up. You know, like, you look good. You got nice clothes on. Fucking act.
Yeah.
Right? Like, shut up. But then it's also like, well, I chose this person for a reason, so it's like, I want them to, like, feel comfortable, blah, blah, blah. But, getting back to directors, it's, as a producer, you have to also know where your leverage lies.
Okay.
Yes.
And you have to know what's best for the film, not only from a visual, creative standpoint, but also from a budget standpoint, because you don't want to go over budget.
Well,
today, because then you won't be able to afford tomorrow.
And budgeting is a huge part of what you do.
Massive part.
How do you do it? I mean, I feel like sometimes people, they're like, I have to fund a film. I'm just going to make up a number and work backwards.
You want the short answer?
Yeah, give it to me.
Copy and paste from another budget. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it is. Just,
is a lot of it just based off of experience? You're like, cool. I know
a lot of us.
I could get horses for this much. I know I could do
a lot of it is
shot for this.
Years of experience, just knowing what rates you can get it. You can provide people.
Have you ever had to get horses?
Yeah.
How did that? Like, do you have a horse guy?
Yeah, well, actually, there are people out there that they have animals. Horses are obviously a little bit more involved than, let's say, a dog.
Yeah, sure.
Or a bird. I did this short film, and it required a bird. And so I researched, and there's a bunch of different firms out there, and they're basically agents for animals.
And they just offer you like trained birds for
a
day rate or whatever.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where you just have to call them up and say, I need the bird to do this, 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 and this. And they say, okay, well, we'll get back to you. And they call you back with an estimate, and then they tell you, or they email you your estimate, and they tell you why it's going to cost that amount of money, and blah blah blah. So I was doing this one short film one time, and it required a bird, and the budget for the film was $15,000. And the directors really wanted a bird.
Okay.
Because the movie was about two little kids chasing a bird.
I feel like I've seen this movie, Curt.
Yeah, I think you have seen this movie.
Yeah.
I think you've seen this movie.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And the bird, I got estimates for the bird, and the bird was going to cost $10,000.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but I'm assuming that the directors were dead set on going with that bird, right?
Well, they wanted a bird, and I went up to him, and so this is where when I was talking about like leverage comes into play. I walked up to him and said, it's going to cost you $10,000 for a bird. So do you want the bird or do you want everything else? And they were like, can we do it in post? And I was like, let me make some phone calls. Sure enough, we put the bird in post.
Nice.
I hate saying, fuck it, we'll do it in post. But in that instance, it cost me $1,000 for the bird in post as opposed to $10,000. I would love to do everything practical.
But at the end sometimes.
Because practical looks better.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day,
you gotta pay for it.
But yeah, so it's, you just gotta do your research. When it comes to budgeting, a lot of the stuff is just like, I've worked with these guys before, and this is what his rate is, this is what he cut me on that deal, blah, blah, blah. And then, so for instance, I'm currently working on a budget for this writer, he doesn't want to direct it, but he wrote it, and he wants to produce it. He asked me to produce it with him, and he asked me to do a budget. It takes place in Haiti.
Yes.
There's an opening scene in Haiti, a flashback, and then cut to Los Angeles. There's a scene in Los Angeles, and then everything is back in Haiti, right?
Okay.
So how do you budget for that? Well, you have to break down. The first thing you do is break down the script for characters, locations, prop sets, wardrobe, things like that. Do you need cars? What are all the things that are in the script that you're going to see on screen that you have to budget for?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So actors, the characters, the actors, the location, the different locations. Are there going to be cars? You have to put the cars in there, blah, blah, blah. Then you have to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to get everybody there? So if you're in Los Angeles, then everybody is like just works from home and they show up on set, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to go to Haiti, right? So then I have to factor in plane tickets for everyone, hotel for everyone, per diem for everyone. And when you get to per diem, you get even screw down further into it's one rate for the days that they're working and a different rate for their days off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So and then so how do I do that? Well, then I go and research, well, how much would it cost me to fly from Los Angeles to Haiti? Well, there's a cost of a plane ticket right there. Round trip ticket times everyone who's going.
Pretty expensive.
How much is a hotel? Well, how long do you need people there? Well, then you have to look at your budget. You have to look at your script, estimate as a producer how many days you think it's going to take you to film it, right? And so we estimated 25 days on this of filming. Right?
Yeah.
Which breaks down into 5 weeks shooting 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But then you also have to remember, well, they're not only going to be there for 25 days, they're also going to be there for those weekends. So you have to add in that, right? So then you go and look at how much would a hotel room cost you, and then you just, hotel room per person. You add all that in, right? Then you add in the per diem.
Sounds expensive.
Jeez.
Then you gotta worry about, okay, how much money can I put, towards locations, permitting for locations? Where am I going to get my camera? Where am I going to get my lighting equipment? All that stuff. Where am I going to get my catering from? Where are these people going to go to the bathroom on set?
Yeah.
And I assume that's one of the challenges, especially when you're traveling to film.
Oh,
are you taking local crews? Are you bringing a crew with you? Yeah.
That was what, and the thing is, like, going to Haiti, there's a small film school there, but it's not huge.
Yeah.
So most of your main characters, the actors, are going to come from LA, New York, or Atlanta, somewhere. They're not going to come from Haiti, but some of your downstream supporting characters might come from Haiti.
Sure.
Your crew, your department heads, and your key people in each department probably going to come from Los Angeles or Atlanta.
Right.
Which means you gotta fly them there, you gotta house them. But some of your downstream, like the assistants, the production assistants, the wardrobe assistants, the location managers.
I mean, how do you even, when you're in Haiti, how do you even find people like that? Like, do they even have like Craigslist?
You have to have a local. You have to have a local. So you're gonna hire we'll hire a line producer to come with us, but then we'll hire a local production manager who has.
That makes sense.
Who
has the
ties to the community,
right.
and then we can get the stuff.
It sounds like one of the things you really have to be comfortable with as a producer is being the bad guy.
Oh yeah,
and saying no.
You have to
cutting people loose.
You cannot feel bad about saying no.
Do you just have to be comfortable in that role when you say, "I want to be a producer"? So I realize that sometimes I got to be a hard ass, or is it kind of something that you grow into? What's kind of been your experience?
It's a little bit of both. For me, it's always been easy to say no, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
But then I know other producers who they have a very hard time saying no, and they don't like confrontation. It's like, well, you can't look at it as a confrontation. You have to look at it as you're presenting the realities of the situation. So let's take a famous example. So in the movie Jaws, right?
Yes.
Right.
Everybody knows that Steven Spielberg wanted to see more of the shark. Right?
Yes.
But they were having such mechanical issues with the shark. If they did delayed production to fix the shark, it would have cost them a lot of money. But then the producer's like, you just can't have the shark. You got to work around it. It's not working. You got to work around it. It made a better film.
It worked out really well.
It scares the shit out of people when you don't see the shark, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a producer has to do. You just have to say, no, it's not working out. We can't do that. So yeah, for me, it's always been easy to say no. I'm not saying I love to say no, but it's very easy for me to no, you can't afford that. I'm sorry. I have to find a different way. But see, that's also the fun about being a producer is somebody comes up to you and they're used to doing it one way. And then you're like, well, we can't afford that. No, you can't do that. So then you get to work with them and be creative, which is what everybody wants to do. Because again, you're making a film. You're supposed to have fun. So then you get to be creative with someone.
I feel like too, that's where those, great behind the scenes stories come from is those moments where, they're like, hey, I always remember watching behind the scenes for, I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and this guy, I don't know if he was the, executive producer, but he's like, Steven Spielberg said we needed more real snakes. And he's like, so I just started calling snake wranglers all around the world, and we flew in 7,000 snakes or something.
Well, it's easy to do that when you got a lot of money. Right.
But it was just one of those weird scenarios where it was like, whatever they were doing wasn't working. Well, and you end up with that, great story.
You told me a great example of you doing this when you had your shoot in the desert and you needed to get a car up on a trailer.
Oh, right. Yeah. So this one I recently did. Yeah. We were in outside of Las Vegas. The story was about a father and son going cross country road trip in their family big rig, and they had a classic car in the back of the truck. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, the ramp that was chosen to get to be shown on camera, as in it's part of the story, to get the car on and off the trailer, was this huge 7,000-pound ramp that needed 2 forklifts to be moved. Right?
Not very practical.
And our director saw it and he's like, yeah, that looks great. And then I'm looking at him like, no, that looks like shit. And they're like, why? I'm like, because it's 7,000 pounds and it takes 2 forklifts to move. What makes you think that these 2 guys that are traveling cross country have this A on their trailer and B can move it by hand?
Well, and C, it was going to be expensive to shoot.
And it was going to be like $1,200 just to get them to deliver it. And I think at the end of the day, it was probably going to cost us somewhere around $2,000. So I'm there with, I was the line producer, I was their production manager, whatever you want to call it. And I was sitting there with my production coordinator, and I was like, we need to find just some basic car ramps. And we were filming at a truck stop, and so we just started walking around and asking people if they had ramps. And sure enough, we found a guy that had a couple of ramps, just like those movable ramps, that you see to go up on the back of a truck or whatever. They're like, can we rent those from you for $100? And he was like, yeah, sure. Right?
There
Problem
you go.
solved.
We set up the camera. The car was in front, on the ground behind the big rig. The doors were open, and we put the ramps there. We're like, look, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that what you asked for? And they were all like, oh my God, this is great, and this is it. So yeah,
We saved almost $2,000.
and we saved almost $2,000. And not only that, they would not only save almost $2,000, but it was also one of those things where we actually got the look that the director actually wanted.
Yeah.
In a practical sense, like, because those ramps weren't actually made for the trailer of the big rig, they were made for a different trailer, a lowboy trailer or a lower trailer. We couldn't show the car on those ramps, but we had to show the car on the big rig, on the back in the trailer. So what do? We call a tow truck driver with a flatbed tow truck, and we put the car on the flatbed, and then we backed the flatbed up to the back of the trailer, drove the car into the trailer, moved the truck. Moved the wrecker, did the scene, pulled the tow truck back up, put the car in the tow truck, and put it back on the ground.
Nice.
That cost us about $230. So all told, that whole thing cost me
$500.
less than that, $350.
Nice.
And
it probably took you less time because
it took us less time. We didn't have to worry about forklifts, moving anything around, and it looked better.
I assume even you start getting into the nitty gritty, and you need forklifts. Well, you're going to need somebody who's certified to drive a forklift. You're going to have to, you can't be you
transport
unless you have
forklifts
it.
out to the desert.
You gotta have someone who can drive it. Exactly. And not only that, though, it was this movie was in a big rig.
Yeah.
Well, the actor doesn't have a commercial driver's license, so we had to hire a big rig driver. We had to hire a guy that had a commercial driver's license.
Yeah.
We had to pay him through the nose. But
He probably loved it.
So
he had a great time.
obviously, another
Trust me.
important task that you have to do is go to investors occasionally and ask for more money. I feel like most people have enough problems asking their family and their friends to help fund a movie. How do you go to an investor and say, hey, this is the situation and we need a little bit more?
You just have to have all your ducks in a row. You have to know why you need the more money. And if it's, because we wanted T-bone steaks every day for lunch, the investor's going to go tell you to pound sand. You wasted my money. No, you can't have any more. Right. But if you, like we did on other halves, we actually wound up having to go back and get a little bit more money. Not much. A little bit more cash from one of our investors. And he was a very nice man. He was like, I knew this was coming. He said it straight up. He's like, because he actually has produced films himself. And he said, I saw it coming. He's like, I was just waiting on the day. I was like, well, we tried.
It's today.
Yeah, it's today. And we only asked him for like a couple $1,000s more. It wasn't, like I said, we did the whole movie for around $40,000 anyway. Yeah. His initial investment was right at $10,000, and we asked him for a little bit more, and he said sure. But it was one of those things where we showed him our cost report up to that point, what we had spent the money on, and everything was super lean. And then we showed him the footage, and it was one of those things where and then we showed him told him what we needed the money for and why we needed it. It was one of those things where we hadn't really anticipated the need.
Gotcha.
And that just comes from a lack of experience. We hadn't anticipated, but it was also one of those things where on other halves, because we were on a shoestring budget, we were using a Blackmagic camera. Nice. And we had 4 Blackmagic cameras, and they were one of them belonged to our director, one of them belonged to our cinematographer, another one belonged to, I think the other 2 belonged to the camera team.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And so at one point we had to kind of like make it as a play, like all the actors are there.
Just rolling 4 cameras.
Just set it up and run.
And we didn't do like a master shot and then punch in for each of them because there were 6 actors, and we're like, this is a big scene, and we don't have all day to do this, so we got to do it. So we told them as soon as we say act, you're on camera. And so we had 4 cameras going. And so we had to like match the color from all 4 cameras. It's hard to do that on set. Yeah. So it's like things like that we had to worry about. And most of the time when you're asking for money, it's in post. When you're asking for more money on an independent film, it's in post-production. A lot of that comes from people forgetting that production is only one aspect of it. You have to pay for post. Yeah. Right? You have to pay for post-production. And then everybody forgets that the editor is not the only entity in post-production.
That seems like a common theme.
That's it.
With experienced filmmakers.
You have to remember music. You have to remember sound.
Which are not the same thing either.
Not the same thing. You have to remember color correction.
Yeah.
You have to remember visual effects. All these different things that people are like, oh, we're just hand it to the editor and a month later.
And the editor's like, I don't do it.
Right. Exactly. And so for us, I think, if I remember correctly, this was 4 years ago. If I remember correctly, this was a coloring issue, and we wanted a little bit better music than what we had gotten.
Mm-hmm.
But our investor was, he was very nice and said, sure. But yeah, you do have to go back and ask for money, and it's just like you have to know what you've already spent your money on, and why did you not anticipate this extra expense? What is it that you did not anticipate?
If you're talking to investors, you have to be able to make a case
for
how you spent your money and how you're going to spend the rest.
Yeah.
That makes sense. They don't like writing blank checks. I don't think
they
anybody
hate
does.
writing blank checks, and they're not politicians, so it's it's like one of those things where they're like, how are you going to make my money back?
And what I'm hearing too is it's not so much about the artistic vision, right? That's a piece of the puzzle when you're pitching, but ultimately it's more about accountability and being able to show them that this is...
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I've pitched to people who are all about the money. They don't care about the script. They don't care about anything else. They're like, okay, give me the basic idea. How are you going to make my money back? Right?
Gotcha.
And so do you make a case? You say, well, this film is like
you
X,
have to
Y,
compare
and
it
Z,
to...
and all these films made X amount of money.
Yeah.
We think we can do the same thing.
Yeah, you have to compare it to other films.
So you do like the old mashup. You're like, this is The
Yes.
Office meets Apocalypse Now.
In a sense, yeah, right. I mean,
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. But yeah, you do. You have to do it in such a way that it's like this movie is compared to this, this, and this.
Okay.
Right. And then this movie and this movie and this movie, you have to do your research when you're doing it. Like, how much did they spend on those movies? Right?
Right.
And then you have to go and look how much of those movies make. At least how much do they make?
Well, and I see you have to take into consideration when the movie was made, right?
Well, there's that too, yeah. You also have to put... I mean, you're not going to go... Like, if you're trying to make a horror movie today, you're not going to go and look at movies from 1980s. You're not going to go and look at, like, old...
Can't go compare it to the original Halloween.
No. You can't do that. You can't... I mean, you can't even compare it to the found
Blair
footage
Witch Project?
Blair Witch.
You can't even compare it to that. Blair Witch is, like 20 years ago. You have to compare it to movies made within the last 5 to 10 years if you're making horror.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, costs are just going to change as
costs are going to
technology
change, but it's also taste change, especially in horror films. Like, horror films are very
point,
cyclical.
yeah.
Like, now it's like Ghost and Supernatural, but then tomorrow it could be Saw.
Right.
Which is gore porn. And then it could go to, like, a Scream type stuff. It could, like, there's so many different subgenres in horror that you cannot compare
You have
to
to
12
know
years ago.
kind of what the audiences are...
What the audience is looking for now, and compare it to movies that have recently been made. See how much they spent, how much they made, what's the return on investment, and then tell your investor, like, okay, this is what they did, and we're gonna not necessarily go exactly the way they did.
We're not going to mirror it, but it's a guide.
Yeah, it's a guide.
So, I guess my next question is this, Curt.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for people who want to become producers?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get into it? Any advice on if I'm living in Oklahoma City right now and my goal is to be a producer in Los Angeles, how would I even get started?
Have a rich uncle.
Okay, other than knowing somebody rich, which is the easy way to do anything.
You have, like, as a producer, like, some people, I didn't go to film school. So for me, I had to do all the different jobs on set. I was a PA, as a second AD, as a first AD. I worked as a location manager. I worked in the grip and electric department. I worked as a wardrobe assistant one time.
But you got good practical experience in all aspects
of it.
Set life.
Yeah. And then I also worked in post-production. So to be a good producer, you kind of have to learn all the jobs, the physical jobs that make the movie happen. But then you also have to work on your creative side as well. Because you have to learn how to find a script that is good. Not only good from, like, oh my god, this is such a great story, but also, like, commercially viable.
Right. How where does this fit in the market?
Right. And then you have to practice, like, giving notes and making it better and things like that. And you have to a lot of it is, like, people skills too. If you're a loner, you're never going to be a producer. If you don't like talking to people, you're not going to be a producer. I hate to say it.
Because you have to build relationships.
You have to build relationships. You have to talk to people.
Yeah.
If you don't talk to people, you're never going to be a producer unless you have all the money in the world. And you can do whatever you want.
Right. And that's never the case.
And that's never the case. Unless you're Jeff Bezos.
Which, So Jeff Bezos has some good notes on you listen to Curt if you want to become a good producer here.
Yeah, right. Go start Amazon, and 20 years later you can make whatever you want, right? But no, it's starting. Be mindful of the fact that everybody else is working for you because you're a producer. They all, you're signing the front of the check, not the back of the check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's a huge responsibility. And know what other people are doing and appreciate what they're doing, but then also be the good leader, be the good effective leader, and shepherd the project through to the completion.
Okay, my final question before we start
Sure.
talking about what we love, which is movies.
Yeah.
The film school thing. Do you find you're at a big advantage not going, or do you think it gave you practical skills that a lot of other people in the industry don't have? What do you think? I assume it's a little bit of...
Yeah, I was going to say, honestly, it's a little bit of both. From a practical production standpoint, film school is a waste of time.
Yeah.
In my mind. Simply because, yes, you get the experience of making the movie. Right?
Yes.
But they don't really give you real world experience. Mm-hmm. Because if you go and try and get a permit, oh, you're a film school. Okay, here you can get a permit for cheap. Yeah. Like the permitting office, especially here in LA, streamlines it for films. The casting, most of the time the school has already set up a pool of actors that you can go through, or you just say we're a film school, and so people are like, you know what caliber actor you're going to get. A lot of times, most of the time, the film school has the equipment for you, the cameras,
good point,
the lighting equipment, the sandbags,
and there's a whole group of people that are willing to make movies with you.
Right, and you already have all of your classmates are required to work on your film.
Yeah,
for free.
Yeah.
So like maybe your biggest expense is going to be your lenses. Let me go rent some extra lenses, right? Because your cinematographer really wants these types of lenses as opposed to those types of lenses that the school provides. And oh my God, if we spend $12,000 on this, then it's going to be so great. It's like, fuck you, dude. It will not. But whatever, you know what I'm saying? Not 12,000, maybe 1,200, but whatever. But so from a purely practical real world experience, film school is a waste of time.
Gotcha.
However, that being said, film school is also a great asset if you pay attention to what's going on. Because you can learn, if you want to be a writer, if you want to be a director, go to film school. Because you need to know the theory, the history of making films, and it gives you a lot of time to hone your creative abilities.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you also build relationships. A lot of, and like, if you want to be a producer, I don't know, man. That's maybe, I don't know.
I'm getting the vibe. You're like, just start making movies.
A lot of times, just go make it. Just prove it. Be done with it. Just go make it. Yes, okay, I made a film. But film school, it can be... It's one of those things where it can also be helpful for aspiring producers, not if you want to make a movie right now.
Okay.
Right? Because, like, I have a good buddy who I'm working with on a project. He went to film school. He went to very prestigious, very famous film school, not in Southern California. And he moved out to LA and got a job as a producer's assistant. I'm not going to say I can guarantee it's because he went to film school, but I can say that going to film school probably helped a lot in him getting that job. Sure. Right? So going to film school, if you want to be if you're an aspiring producer, going to film school can help you get in the door at agencies or production houses to be the producer's assistant, the agent's assistant, which then you can move into being a producer's assistant. It can help you with that, with the business aspect of it, getting your foot in the door. I, found it hard getting into that aspect of the industry because I didn't go to film school. Sure. And I just didn't know anybody. Yeah. Yeah. And so by the time I found out, oh, shit, I should have gone and worked in the mailroom. It was already 10 years too late. And I was like, I'm not going to go work in the mailroom and work my way up. It's like, well, screw it. I'll just do this instead. Yeah. And so, but that's the other thing is there's a lot of, like my buddy who I work with, and I love him, hang out with him a lot. And we got a big project going. When it comes to budgeting, he only knows like high level budgeting. He can't drill down into...
Because he hasn't done
it. Like he straight up told me when we started on this path, he's like, when it comes to budget, dude, he's like, I'm gonna rely on you. Like you're gonna have to like look at that budget and let me know if it's doable or not. And I said, okay. And then I said the same thing to him because he's had years and years and years of experience of giving notes and being the creative producer. Sure. And I said to him, well, I'm gonna have to rely on you kind of heavily for the creative aspect of it, and like you and I will bounce ideas off of each other. But most of the creative stuff is going to come from you. And he's like, yeah, no, I get it. It's fine.
Form that relationship, yeah.
Yeah, form relationships. No, so the big takeaways as a producer, be a people person, form relationships, manage your liabilities, and know what your leverage is.
Boom.
To get it done.
There you go. That was film school in 4 bullet points. Right? All right. Now,
let's do it.
Let's talk about
what do you want to talk about.
Let's talk about some movies.
The greatest movie of all time. Go. Dustin, what is it?
My favorite movie is just Star Wars.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Dustin and I talk about movies all the time. So I want to know
what do you think is the greatest movie of all time?
Yeah, no, that's my favorite.
Greatest movie of all time? That really depends on what my mood is, man.
My mood is always Star Wars, so.
Well, we know that. Everybody knows that. You, Dustin.
Right. Aren't you going to ask me?
Yeah, what's the greatest movie of all time?
Roadhouse. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's not Roadhouse. I'm kidding. It's not.
Well, similarly, what's a movie you could watch over and over?
A movie I could watch over.
We'll do a rundown.
I mean, terribly, I could watch Roadhouse over and over again.
It's kind of one of those
not on a loop, but yes, I could. A movie I can watch over and over. Tommy Boy.
Oh, there you go.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic, great movie.
Now, what's a movie that you would watch on a first date with someone?
Gone with the Wind.
Seriously?
Wow. Okay.
That's
Yeah,
just
why not?
long.
Like, because it's romantic or like...
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Okay.
Okay, maybe not. All right, maybe
I mean,
not.
I'm saying is that like, the litmus test to
I mean,
be
my
like,
mom
hey,
would say
no,
it's a
no,
great
no,
movie.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
No.
If you can
okay.
watch Gone with the Wind, like, we're a
Then
match.
we're good. Yeah, no, okay. Maybe not Gone with the Wind.
It's not a bad movie. I'm just like,
It's not a
first
bad
date
movie.
material?
Right.
Like,
Silence of the Lambs. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
No, I'm kidding.
Kurt
First
likes
date
giving
movie?
women the wrong
Right.
impression.
I don't know. What movie on a first date? I don't know, man. I
That's
don't
funny.
know. You know what? I would say probably like a comedy.
Okay.
Ooh, Get Smart
Good
with
stuff.
Steve
Okay.
Carell. That
Yeah.
would be a good first date movie.
Okay.
Because it's funny, but there's some romance involved, but it's like goofy.
It's got The Rock.
Yeah.
It lets you have fun. Yeah, The Rock's in it.
Super
So
bad.
Okay.
Some eye candy, yeah. Right?
What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Silence of the Lambs? Easy.
Okay.
Scariest person,
Very creepy.
scariest villain ever. I mean, that guy he's Hannibal Lecter is clearly one of the smartest guys ever, and he's so you never know what he's thinking, and he's just so crafty.
Well, and the way the movie's done, it really... So you have that dynamic between the two characters, but he's actually, as an audience member, I mean, he's in your head.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the catch, is where you're like, wow, I'm wondering what he's thinking, as a third party.
And you're like,
viewer.
what is he gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? And the end scene when he hangs it, when he just drops the phone.
Yeah.
Like when he's on the island watching or following Dr. Chilton, it's like,
Yeah.
how the hell did he get there? Right? And like, how did he track this man down?
Yeah.
Right? And then he just leaves the phone hanging. You're just like, oh my god, you're like, yeah.
You're right. As a horror force, he is so
He's
superior to
It's
all of us.
it's to me that's scarier than the Saw movies. That's
Or
just
like a
gore
Ghost or
porn.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Ghost
No,
movies
dude,
are just like
Shining's pretty scary.
yeah, The Shining. Well, The Shining's scary, but that's like a psychological thriller, But it's like which is Silence of the Lambs is kind of a psychological thriller.
True.
Yeah. And Darth Vader's not that scary.
He's not that scary in a horror sense.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't like to encounter him
No, of course not.
myself.
Right.
What is your favorite movie?
Gone with the Wind.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I'm from Atlanta. I'm from the South.
Okay,
I
that
can
actually
dig it.
makes the first date.
Well, that
thing
makes a
make-
little more
Right.
sense.
Yeah,
I didn't
it
realize
makes
that
more
was your
sense now.
favorite. I was
Okay.
just like,
Yeah.
that's a heavy movie. But
Right.
okay, I
It
get
is a heavy movie.
And it's
It is,
classic.
but it's
and
a
one of the best
classic.
movies ever made.
I love that movie. It's a great
Transform
movie.
cinema.
Yeah, right.
What's the most thought-provoking movie that you've ever seen?
Ooh.
Holy Lord in
That
heaven.
trips your mind.
I mean, I was thinking about this because you emailed me these questions earlier. The most thought-provoking
Yeah.
movie. I don't know.
I always, for me,
Right.
something that always stands out was, have you ever seen Memento?
Yeah.
I don't know why. The structure of the movie, it just always gets me thinking. Obviously, there's a lot of story elements that get your mind going, but as a film, how they were able to make that work.
Yeah. No. Oh, you're talking about. Wait. No. Are you talking about how do they do it thought provoking?
No, I mean what
just made you think about it?
I think he's talking story, but that movie to me, on both levels, it's got me in the moment, in the story, thinking like, wow,
Yeah.
what's happening here?
You
But
know
then
what?
I'm like, how did they...
That makes sense. So I think one movie would be Inception.
I was
Yeah,
actually
okay.
thinking
Nolan.
Inception.
That's
Inception
both
is
Christopher
great.
Nolan, right?
But yeah, I mean he's
Yeah.
he's a great filmmaker. But that would be one of those things where like, hey, so for Inception, like the end of it, like did the top fall over or not?
Hey,
Right?
are we going to solve it right now?
I don't.
I think it fell. Personally, I think it fell.
I think it fell, but other people say no, it didn't. Right? Other people say no, it didn't.
Because it wobbles a bit, which
It wobbles,
only
but that's
wobbles
the
when
whole
it
point.
falls.
But then other people were like, right, that's what I
Because
say
when he
too.
spins it in the dream, it spins
It
perfectly.
spins
There's no
and
wobble.
spins and spins. Especially like when he opens up the little safe and it starts
still-
spinning,
yeah,
it's still
yeah.
spinning. But then it's also one of those things where it's like everybody's like, well, his children are like haven't grown up and they're wearing the same clothes as in his dream, and it's like, well, they never really tell you how long he's been on the run.
No.
Maybe
his kids are born.
Maybe he's been,
They
yeah, but
can only
maybe
afford one pair
he's
of
only
clothes.
been on the run for a
I
couple
mean, they
of
don't
months.
have any parents, so maybe
Right?
you got to wear the same clothes.
Right. I mean, I don't remember them giving any sort of like
There's really no
definitive
definitive time
like
frames.
from the time he's had to run when his wife killed herself to the time he comes
Spoiler
home.
alert.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. Sorry. I don't remember them saying it's been 3 years or 10 years.
Well, and they talk
or
about how
whatever.
Limbo is in a totally different timeline.
Right. So
Regular,
just like it's just
real
one of those things where I think the top fell over. I think he,
And I agree with your assertion there, because even though Christopher Nolan is playing, I think, with us in that moment, like it wobbled this or that, I think the story, if it spoke to you, should get, even if he showed it at the end and the top never wobbled,
right.
you should still have an idea of whether or not you think that this is reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does a really good job. In my opinion, I think it falls over.
I do too, yeah. And let's not forget, I mean, what's the basic premise of that story? It's a family story. It's a guy trying to get home to his kids.
True.
Right?
If it doesn't fall, then he never gets home.
And if it doesn't fall, he never gets
dark.
home. Right? And so, he's doing everything he can using the knowledge that he has at hand and his abilities to get home to his kids.
Yeah.
I think it falls over.
Me too.
I think he's
I think that's... And the reasoning is, if you follow the story, I think the narrative leads you, that's the story.
Right. I mean, you're right. The whole movie is him trying to get home to his kids.
Right. So that, to me, makes sense. And I know Christopher Nolan is just kind of... He's playing with us. He's getting that thought-provoking...
But that's
think
the
about
whole
it.
point.
Think about it.
Right? I mean, that's the whole point. So, yeah.
Next question. What movie do you wish you could see on the big screen that you never have?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't know, man, because I saw Die Hard on the big screen. Oh, you know what?
What?
Isn't that awesome?
I did, a couple years ago. I went over to the ArcLight.
It's
the best, dude.
The ArcLight was shown on the big screen. Gone with the Wind. Never saw it on the big screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It doesn't do it every couple years.
Yeah, it does
Every
make...
couple
I would
years.
have thought you would have gone.
I know,
I think
but
they
I
just
never-
had it a little while
I know.
back.
I've never been in town here in LA or
go.
even growing up. Now I remember my dad saying every year when he was growing up, my dad also grew up in Atlanta. Every year, and when he was in elementary school or middle school, they would take a field trip to the theater to watch Gone with the Wind.
That's
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. And there's some movies, it just feels like if you get, for instance, I always like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Just felt I've seen
like
it in the
made
theater a
for the
couple
big
times.
screen.
It's just better on the big
Oh,
screen.
that movie's I've seen that on the big screen. You know what? Another movie I would like to see on the big screen would be Apollo 13. I never went to see that on the big screen.
Yeah, I never
But that's
did either.
such a,
Yeah, I saw it on TV, I think,
yeah,
the first time.
yeah.
But when I was little, yeah.
Yeah, but those big, expansive movies are movies you want to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
Right? Star Wars.
Yeah.
I've never seen the original, A New Hope.
I have.
Episode 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them
you've
on
seen
the
it
big
like a
screen.
million times. That's
Yeah, I don't think I've seen them on the big screen. I'd like to go see those on the big screen because those are big, space, epic, huge movies that you want to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
I saw Castaway on the big screen. Loved it.
That's
What?
awesome.
Oh, Castaway. Okay.
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks.
Yeah.
Great movie on the big screen.
Yeah.
Great movie on the small screen too. But yeah, I think if I had to choose one, Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
Cool.
What's a movie that you'd recommend to show your grandparents?
Gone with the Wind. Wait, they've already seen it.
They probably already seen that.
Actually,
Almost
you know
like, what's a movie you
Right?
from today that
I've actually watched Gone with the Wind, or not Gone with the Wind. Tommy Boy with my grandma.
No way.
She laughed. Yeah.
And how did it play? It played
She
well?
loved it. She thought it was
Nice.
funny. I mean, that's a good, fun, clean, goofy movie.
Okay.
Right?
Oh my god, I always love when he's
Tommy
out
Boy.
in the...
But right?
He's out in the little boat on the
Quit
lake.
playing with your dinghy.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, right? No, but
Class.
right? A more recent movie. Shoot, I don't know. Get Smart. I think my grandmother would love Get Smart.
Yeah.
She would not like Other Halves at all. Although she's probably streamed it on Amazon. She probably on her way out the door just put it on Amazon and just let it stream so we could get the view count. Which thank you, Grandma. But
Everybody, that's just another plug. Make sure you watch it.
Other Halves on Amazon. My grandma watched it. You should watch it.
It's on
too.
Prime.
Right?
What's a movie that inspires you as a producer?
Ooh, that's interesting. So this one, this is all you.
This is all you.
That inspires me as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Oh, can we go back to the previous question? What movie would I have my grandparents watch? Any of the Lethal Weapon movies, especially number one,
There
right?
you go. Okay.
The first is so good.
Or any of the
Lethal Weapon
Expendables
1
movies.
is amazing.
Also,
The
yeah.
Expendables movies,
Dude, I
right?
love
Those
those.
movies deliver. Sorry. Okay, what movie inspires me? Shoot, I don't know, man.
What's the one where if you see it, or even what's one that you just love the behind the scenes story of it, where you're like, wow, I didn't know that, and it's fascinating. Like something that came up recently that
I don't know.
I was actually like really interested in and watched the footage for was like on Kill Bill Volume 2, Uma Thurman like crashed her car. For some reason, I don't know exactly what it was, Tarantino wanted her in the driver's seat. Wanted her to drive this car, and she did. But when you watch that footage, you're like, fuck, she was driving super fast and crashed. I guess to this day, she still has neck problems and is not as good of friends with Tarantino.
Maybe true. Yeah, I don't know what movie inspires me to do what? To like think or to like want to
make
be a
movies.
filmmaker?
Like, is there a movie that you see and you're like, that's exactly why I love movies. I want to make a movie like that gives an audience that feeling.
Gone with the Wind.
Unforgiven.
Oh,
Or even The Sons of Katie Elder, John Wayne movie, classic.
Yep.
I love that movie for various reasons, but I think that's it melds serious Western with some comedic moments, which I think are just fantastic.
I think that's
Well, it's interesting you bring that up.
And it's a great story.
We were talking about some of those movies before. That's probably a movie I think that a lot of people casually haven't seen. That
Probably not.
You would have to go
It's from the
specifically
mid-60s, so,
get that and be like, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, it's from the mid-60s, so probably not. It's one of those things where I was exposed to it at a young age because my grandfather loved John
That's
Wayne.
why you got to show. That's why you got to show.
He loved John Wayne, and he loved Clint Eastwood. Yeah, Sons of Katie Elder. And actually, that was Sons of Katie Elder was one of my dad's favorite movies, too.
There you go.
And yeah, it's I think it's a great film. Sons of Katie Elder, like if I could make a movie like that, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Because that's one of those.
There you go.
That's one of those movies. That's one of those
movies
movies where you can take your grandparents to see it, and you can also take your kids to see it.
Cool.
Right?
It speaks to everyone.
It speaks to everyone. Everybody would love it.
I like it.
For different reasons.
Is there a movie that you wish that you could have been like a PA on the set or a fly on the wall when they were making it? Because you would have liked to see the actual the process unfold.
Pretty much anything Clint Eastwood does.
Okay.
Although I have some problems with some of his movies, but he's such a great filmmaker.
It's amazing.
Did either of you see his new movie?
The Mule?
The Mule?
The Mule?
Yeah.
Was it good? I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was good.
I mean, it's not Clint Eastwood's best film, but it's not
his best film, and there's a few problems with it, obviously. But I mean, it's also just like he was one of those. He's one of those guys. I'm just going to tell you a story.
Yeah.
Like everybody remembers the controversy in American Sniper about the little baby. Like, oh, it's not a real baby. Big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Right? Get over it. You know what I mean? Watch the story.
Yeah.
Listen to the story.
Yeah. Focus on the story.
Yeah.
And so pretty much. I mean, like I'm not gonna name a specific movie. I would just say if I could work with Clint Eastwood, watch him. That would be great. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that may even actually be the more appropriate answer is like who, not what.
Not what. Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. Who would you want to work with?
He's a master of his craft.
He is.
And it's amazing because he's only like a mediocre actor.
Right.
But he is a phenomenal director.
Mediocre, maybe that's a little low.
As an actor, he's very one note.
True.
And as a director, he's been incredibly versatile.
Right.
Okay.
Which I just think is kind of, it's very interesting.
I don't want this podcast to be...
We're not slamming Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
I know you're not.
This is the Clint Eastwood slam show.
Right?
No, I like ripping me on Twitter.
No. Clint Eastwood...
If Clint Eastwood has Twitter, then I will cancel this show.
He might. You better look that up. He might. But no, I see where you're going there. Right. He's kind of, like...
We gotta find
his
out.
acting is...
He stays in, like, a very,
He stays in
Clint Eastwood roles.
He stays in his lanes when it comes to his acting.
Like...
Well, and that's probably because he knows that's what his audience wants to see him do. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, because, like, even when you see, like...
Whoa, sorry. I typed in Clint, and I saw a lot of Clinton stuff.
Gran Torino, right?
Gran Torino,
he still plays Clint Eastwood as, like, an old, crotchety Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But it's the same character. Okay.
Yeah.
So...
All right, he does not. So this show goes
on.
The show goes on.
We have at least one more week.
There is a Clint Eastwood fan page,
I'm sure.
and it just describes him as the man.
So, two-part question for you, Kurt.
The man, the myth, and the
What's
legend.
a movie that you hope they never remake?
Roadhouse.
And what's a movie you hope they do remake?
Also Roadhouse.
Well, that's easy. The paradox of Roadhouse.
I know. One movie that I hope they never remake, Gone with the Wind. Although they made a sequel called Scarlet with Timothy Dalton,
which was pretty awful,
stupid. Yeah, they should never try and remake Gone with the Wind. They should. They remade The Shining.
No way.
Yeah, they made it into a TV movie.
Yeah,
look at that.
All right,
yeah.
now I'm sad.
Right, but I never saw it. But yeah, well, I mean, like Gone with the Wind. I mean, you know, I'm being biased. Pretty much. I mean, and you know, I know Jeff Bridges won, or you know, he redid True Grit.
Okay.
But
I wasn't
a fan of that version.
I like the original
version. Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, but no, yeah. If they tried to remake Gone with the Wind, I don't know. I would quit the film industry.
Okay. Now,
maybe, I don't know.
What movie do you think has the best acting you've ever seen?
Ooh, that's
like I wanted you to really watch this from as a
that's
producer.
deep.
What's a movie that you watch and you're like, I like the chemistry between these actors. I like the performance. You know,
Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, all right. I mean,
what he was on screen,
legendary performances,
right? What he was on screen for about 20 minutes, and he
still
won the Oscar for best actor.
I mean, he brings a
right?
lot.
I mean, that's
like it's one of those things when he is on screen, you're just like captivated.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just the
that's great. I think you're gonna hate me for saying this, but the movie Deliverance. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah,
with Burt Reynolds.
I have not.
Some great acting in that movie.
Yeah, that's wasn't that
late 70s is Burt Reynolds and
John Voight.
That movie has really good acting, and people forget that that Burt Reynolds was. I mean, he was when he made that movie, he was like the top star in Hollywood.
Yeah,
but that movie has some really great acting in it.
Yeah,
I really like that movie. That's another movie I hope they don't remake for various reasons, but it's that's a really good movie.
Yeah. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what movie really pisses you off?
A movie called Fracture with Ryan Gosling and Anthony Hopkins.
I have not seen that.
So Anthony Hopkins is in some of your favorite movies.
I mean, it's
he's a great actor.
Kind of strange though that now that you've said that, I kind of want to see it.
You should watch it. Well, I mean, it's a great. I don't want to give away the ending, but the end, literally, the last scene pisses me off.
Okay.
The last scene for me is just like ruin the whole movie.
Gotcha.
For me.
You know what movie it really upset me as I watched it was The Happening. I did not like.
Oh yeah, I never saw that.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It really bothered me to the extent that they just kept making the movie.
Yeah. I never saw it, but
I got more upset the more I watched it.
Right.
Not a fan.
That's one. Yeah. There's movies out there. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it starts off with a cool premise. Then I'm like, I'm not really feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me, like, as they go, I'm like, did you guys make this out of like an obligation to finish it?
They may have. Sometimes they may have.
Because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just can't imagine you guys did a test screening of this and you're like, that's it. This is it.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you had to be like, this probably shouldn't be released.
Good point.
Yeah. There's so many movies out there like that, and you're thinking like, what the hell? They got money to make that?
Yeah.
Sharknado.
It's got to be inspiring.
Sharknado.
As a
I have not seen
as a
that.
producer.
I
right?
haven't seen it either. No, it's not. It's very disheartening.
No, because you should think that you can definitely get money from somebody. You just got to shake down the right guy.
Well,
Listen,
that's the thing. It's
I'm
like,
not
where
gonna
are they
lie.
getting the money to make that
I
movie?
totally
Right?
love. There's nothing better than like a late Thursday night. You just crack a beer and throw on Sharknado. Like
Which
it
one?
totally delivers.
I've never done that.
Which
all of
one?
them.
Like
They're all just like awesomely bad.
Sharknado 900, or I mean, I don't even know what number.
And I feel like I will never do that on a Tuesday, but if I ever on a Thursday,
On a Thursday,
what do I do?
Good, right?
Yeah,
It's
hey.
Sharknado.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Sharknado.
I'm sure you can find it. I'm sure it's somewhere, like on Netflix or Amazon.
Hey, listen.
Now, hey, if you can't find Sharknado, go watch other ads on Amazon Prime.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Kurt, hey, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
inviting
you
me.
so
It was
much.
fun.
Now,
Yeah.
you give any shout outs? Anyone you gotta plug here, or else they're gonna
Shameless plug
disown
time.
you or anything?
No one's go watch other halves. I think I plugged that one
Okay.
enough.
Last question: how can our audience connect with you on social media, or if they have questions or want to trash you for your
Give
hatred
out
of
your
Fracture?
personal phone number.
What's
Yeah,
the best way to contact you? Twitter.
Hang on one second.
Facebook?
Let me get my phone number out of my contact.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm actually not on social media
Look
at
at
all.
that.
I take it back. I'm on Twitter, but anonymously on Twitter.
Do you have an
Probably
email
safe.
or a PO box?
Yeah, you. How about this, audience? If you want
Please
to
write him a letter.
if you want to contact me, contact these guys. Contact Christian and Dustin,
There you go.
and they can put us into contact.
Yeah, you can. You
Yeah.
can
No,
follow me.
I'm on LinkedIn, Curt Chatham.
Okay.
Are you on
LinkedIn.
IMDb?
I have an IMDb page. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, but I hardly ever post anything. And I just don't like Facebook, so I'm not on Facebook.
Can't blame you.
I actually rather talk to people in person than talk to my computer.
You can find Curt on LinkedIn, and you can also find his movie on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Other halves on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
out.
no
really
problem.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Had fun.
This is a
It's
good
great.
time, and just thanks for letting us pick your brain.
Sounds good.
As far as everybody else, we hope you liked the episode. If you got any questions or feedback, or want to trash either of us for our lack of movie knowledge here, then you know where to do it. I'm at AndyCal5 and all your social media needs.
I'm at Big Kid D-Man, and be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes and Google Play. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.